I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming tonight. We're going to start the meeting with a public hearing with respect to a code change in the zoning section. I need a motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We've discussed this at prior meetings. This is a proposed code change that will allow for, sorry, I was just looking for Brad, front porches to not be included in the required setbacks, and also for to allow for space for chimneys to not be included as well. And the board thinks that, and I agree, it's a it makes things easier, more accessible, and it makes sense to us. And so we did discuss it at a work session, and now we would just like to put it out there for any comment that anyone would have on this. Brad, is there anything that you would like to add to flesh out what I just said?
No, I think you got it.
There was some discussion at the work session that maybe it would be limited to porticos and not a full front porch, and others thought, oh, let it have the front porch. All right, did you comment?
No, I'm not gonna-
Okay.
I'm not gonna-
All right, well, if nobody has any comments, then the motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second matter on the agenda is a continuation of a public hearing that we started at the last board meeting in March with respect to the development on Rogers Avenue. Not sure if I need a motion, but I'll say let's move to reopen the public hearing.
Okay.
Move that we reopen the meeting.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And what I'd like to do is ask for any additional comments from the public, the applicant, and then we'll close the public hearing, and the board members and I will have a dialogue amongst ourselves. And then we'll ask the village attorney to create a draft of what he hears as our positions, so we can, move it to the next step of a determination.
And what you're going to ask of me is not going to happen tonight.
No, you're not. Well, you're going to take notes
Right,
and
I'll
then
take
draft
notes.
it up. You can watch the video back after.
Okay.
All right. So last time we did start with the applicant. Did you have any, Mr. Eisler? Yep.
Good evening, Mayor Moore and members of the board. My name is Frank Eisler. I'm an attorney with the firm of Smith, Finkelstein, Nuremberg, Eisler, and Yakubowski in Riverhead. I represent the applicant. I just want to briefly touch on some points that we addressed at the last hearing, particularly on the scenic easement issue that we were discussing. And the points I'd like to make are just a few on the scenic easement. We're requesting that the trustees abandon that easement that's recorded. It's on our title and recorded in the county clerk's office. And this was just to refresh your recollection, this was a scenic easement that was imposed on a 6-lot industrial subdivision that was approved for this parcel, which never got developed, never got even subdivided in terms of title changing hands at all. The purpose of the easement in large measure was along the front southern border of our property, and then the first westerly rise of it before it juts back out to the further to the west, had a 50-foot buffer. And that was clearly intended, because there are homes directly to the west of that sideline there, to buffer what could be an obnoxious industrial use from the residential uses that existed there, and also to buffer it from the road. And then as you go further up the scenic easement only requires a 25-foot buffer, whereas your zoning code for the multifamily 20 district requires 30 for a side yard, so it's even really obsolete now under our current zoning. The other thing that's in this particular declaration that I wanted to bring to the board's attention is that it also says that the burden property, which is the strip that would be subject to this easement that's recorded, shall in all other respects remain in their natural state in order to maintain their present character and appearance. Now, the present state is vegetated in just a natural kind of disorderly, if you ever go by there, it's not quite appealing. And another reason we would be asking to abandon this easement is for a reason that we have a site plan before the planning board with a landscaping plan for that area that this planning board, I think, is content with. They, when they sent the plan over here, and Kyle Collins had reviewed it and was recommending to the planning board that it be accepted. So it would, from a matter of neighborliness, and there are residential houses still there on our west of us, that rather than keep it totally as it is now, which this would require, it would also provide a much more appropriate buffer and landscaping from a visual point of view if our plan were to be put in place. So, we would ask that the board consider the abandonment of this. I think it's really an obsolete easement that never really took effect because the zoning changed as intended to get rid of the industrial use at the site. So that's really the only thing that I wanted to bring to the board's attention to make it a more focused reason than we talked about last time of why this easement we would request be abandoned. And in fact, just so you know, just to finish the point, our subdivision, our site plan rather, complies with the 35-foot front yard buffer that's under our zoning under multifamily, and obviously the 30 around the property. And this board, when it adopted the zoning, the trustees, when they adopted it, obviously made a finding that that was a suitable setback for this type of use for multifamily. So I would ask that as part of the action that you take on our application, that you would agree to the abandonment of that easement. Does the board have any questions of either me or our consultants that are here?
Are you saying that if we did not abandon the scenic easement, that the buffer zone would be less than what is already set forth in the easement?
Well, the buffer for the side yard is less than the zone. The 50-foot buffer for the front yard and that westerly rise of the property from the Rogers up to where our property then jogs to the west, that would be more severe. That's 50 feet, and we're required 30 foot, 35 feet. So I would suspect, and our plan does comply with the 30-foot setbacks of zoning, but what's a problem from a site plan and appearance is this other condition in here that we can't do anything in the buffer areas. And in fact, our site plan has a proposed sidewalk to get to Rogers from our building and from our property that actually we couldn't build because of this kind of requirement. So all of the beneficial development aspects of our application would be affected by this. And again, it's really an obsolete concept because this was a industrial subdivision. This site was going to be an active industrial, as it historically was, if it had been developed with these under the subdivision that got approved. So that's why we're really thinking it really serves no viable purpose anymore, and in fact could inhibit some beneficial things that would happen at the property.
Thank you.
Questions?
Regarding the affordable housing aspect, the last time we spoke, you said that all of the affordable units were one-bedroom,
Yes.
whereas you have several two-bedroom and I believe a few three-bedroom units within the complex, correct? Can you explain the reasoning for not including two-bedroom or three-bedroom in the affordable housing?
I think the plan was, just a decision was made to have a single bedroom for the affordable housing. The board had brought this up at the last meeting, and in talking with the applicant, there would be a willingness on the part of the applicant to increase some or all of the affordable housing units to two bedrooms, for example. The problem it poses for the applicant, and as a practical matter, is that we would be of the mind to add those bedrooms, but we don't want to diminish the bedrooms we have in the other market value units. So that's my understanding that if we added those, we have 8 right now affordable units. If we added any bedrooms to those units, it would put the property over the permitted number of bedrooms under zoning. Now, what we would offer to the board is, time is important to us. It's been a very, very long project. And what we would be offering is, when you act on our application for the special permit, and send us back to the planning board, and we would apply to the zoning board, because I believe we would need a variance to add these additional bedrooms. But we would apply to the zoning board. Perhaps this board might be able to provide a recommendation to the zoning board that our request to add these additional bedrooms to the affordable units be something that they consider positively. We'll make a case for doing it. Certainly there's no impact that I can see to community or to the appearance of the area. It would not affect the size or shape of our buildings. The site plan would be unaffected by this if we added bedrooms to them. We've discussed that, and that's we can do it without changing our site plan, without having to expand buildings or remove walls or anything like that.
So if you were to make the 8 affordable units into 2 bedrooms, then you would have to reduce the 8 3-bedrooms down to 2 bedrooms, and you don't want to do that. Unless you made some of the market rate 1-bedrooms to offset. So for every 3-bedroom, you need a 1-bedroom. That's
right. I think my clients would want to keep the 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms units in the number that he has now. And in my judgment, and obviously we don't know until we do it, we would make an application to the zoning board to increase those affordable housing units to 2-bedroom. And
wouldn't the variance really be to have 8 3-bedrooms?
well, right now, our plan right now is we have 1 bedroom in the affordable units.
Yeah, but if we made those 2 bedrooms, the variance isn't to have the 1 bedrooms turned into 2. It's really to be able to have approval for 8 3-bedrooms, since you don't have any 1-bedrooms.
It actually, I see it differently. Because our plan is right now, when we have 1-bedroom affordables, 8 of them, we have 8 3-bedroom. That's our application. And the variance would be to allow us to add 2 bedrooms, a bedroom to each of the affordable units. That would be because we already have the 3 bedrooms in our plan, and that they approve the additional bedrooms in the affordable units.
Okay.
That would be, and we would just ask that if that's your inclination that you'd like us to do that, we'll be happy to do it. But allow us to go back to the planning board to get the site plan, because the site plan will be totally unaffected by what happens in the zoning. Any other questions of the board.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody from the public have any comments? Come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Just to calm myself. I'm not a public speaker, so I'm not going to pretend to be. Stop the pounding in my ears.
No, take a breath. Yeah.
My name is Jenny Zatcher, and I reside at 92 Rogers Avenue in West Hampton Beach, and I have lived there since 1985. My husband purchased the house in 1976. He was a young single guy, moved his friends in, and I think it was known as Animal House in the neighborhood
Yeah.
for a few years. And so I met him when we were living in Colorado, and I think the neighbors, actually I was told, they were very happy when he came back to West Hampton Beach. He was training at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and so they knew he was going to be away for 4 years in training. And so he came back to West Hampton with a bride. And so they were very happy that Animal House was, we had grass planted now and flowers and things were good. So while he was away, I should say before he moved, I'm going to give a little history of this piece of property for the residents and people who don't know where we've been with this. This was an asphalt plant. And I've been going through chemotherapy for the last year and a half. That's why I haven't been active in a lot of the meetings and things. So my memory's a little sketchy, so I can't remember the exact numbers. But at one point in time, I could tell you the tonnage, the this, the that, and everything with the asphalt plant. But it was a small asphalt plant, let's just say that. And it was zoned a pre-existing non-conforming use, meaning that they were there. You can't tell someone you have to stop business because we're changing the zoning. So that was fine. It was shut down. When my husband bought the property, they did shut down and they were not processing any asphalt. When he came back from his training, they were operating again. I think it was a new company that was operating. Now someone in the neighborhood should have said something. They said, you know, they can't open up again because it was a pre-existing non-conforming use. But anyway, they were up and operating. So we dealt with that until they expanded so quadrupled, probably wouldn't even explain. Like I said, I can't remember the tonnage, but it was crazy. They brought all these components in on these big flatbed trucks, and lined everything up inside. And so nothing could be done about no, you can't rebuild this new plant. So they did that, and my husband and I became very outspoken opponents to this. And ultimately, after a few years, the neighborhood rallied because this was just not something good for our neighborhood. We rallied, and that was shut down because it was wrong. It was really, really wrong. And it's hard for a neighborhood to come together to fight something that is wrong. You can be totally wrong, and you can be on the right side of things, but unless you have the money and the time, because most of us are just working people, we go to work every day, we come home, you have to have a lot of time and a lot of money to hire the attorneys to represent you. So we were at a huge disadvantage. But we prevailed, and eventually, the village officials did the right thing, and they protected our neighborhood. Rogers Avenue, Hazelwood, Rogers Avenue Extension has been, I've raised my 3 children there, and it has been a neighborhood where you could count on your neighbors. You knew your neighbors, and you could count on them. My children, I had backup plans, if they forgot their key when they got, when they were a little bit older and they got home off the school bus, then they could go to Nancy's across the street. I think sometimes they purposely forgot their key because Nancy had hot cocoa and she would go out and do snowball fights with them, you know? I mean, it was a neighborhood that we care about each other and we know each other. And it's still that neighborhood. My daughter and her fiance bought a house on Hazelwood and Rogers Avenue Extension. And that has, the Jones family used to live there, and they raised their children. And Myra Jones was wonderful, and when I knew she was selling the property, you know, I said my daughter is interested. So now I have my grandson, who's 8 months old, living around the corner from me, like 5 houses away. When he's older, he can walk to my house. Not with this plan. Like I said, had health issues, so I haven't been able to be very vocal on this. And I'm not a public speaker, but I'm very passionate about about this issue. I'm very passionate about protecting this neighborhood and the quality of life in this neighborhood. And the reason that most of the people bought homes in this neighborhood, because it's a neighborhood. And the attorney that was just up here speaking, one of the terms he used that just blasted in my brain was to maintain the present state. Well, the size of this development is not going to maintain the present state of this neighborhood. I'll say that once again. The size of this development is not going to in any way maintain the present state of this neighborhood. We are talking about a density of 53 units, if I'm correct.
52.
52.
52, okay. Let me just write that down here. So I'm one by one.
That's okay.
Most houses today have at least 2 people living in them. And most people have a car for each adult. So if you have 52 units, you're probably going to have 104 cars. And people are going to go to and from work every day. That is so much traffic on these roads. For many, many years in our neighborhood, our roads were oil covered with, the rock put down on it. And a few years ago, they paved it, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Well, little did I know, I guess as progress was leading up to this. The biggest question I have here.
That's not why the road was paved.
Yeah, I know, but I'm
Okay,
just like,
all right.
I'm very grateful. We were all so excited. It's like, oh, the village is paving our road, and that's just wonderful. And, our kids, they can skateboard on the road. That's the thing. They can skateboard, they can ride their bikes. Not with the kind of traffic that we're talking about here, but I'm talking about present day and when I was raising my children. This project, my grandson will not, he will not be able to skateboard, he will not be able to ride his bike. I will worry about him being out waiting for the bus in the morning with all this extra traffic where people are going to work and going to school and everything all at the same time. That is huge. It destroys the character of this neighborhood, the reason that people are living in this neighborhood. It's, like I said, please correct me if I'm wrong on some of these things. We were all cheering when the asphalt plant was going to be gone because it was wrong, that they developed like what they did. And we figured that it would at some point be developed. And housing, that's great. It's great to have neighbors. We are a neighborhood. And I believe, as it stands right now, the property is zoned for 1 acre lots. Am I correct in that? Are they half-acre lots or 1 acre? I think they're 1 acre.
I think it's quarter acre, it's 4 per acre,
Okay, 4 per acre.
unless there's an affordable component.
Okay, current. So quarter acre. But
Sorry.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm having trouble with is, this is not currently zoned. Am I correct that this is not currently zoned for 52 units?
It's zoned for multifamily
Yeah,
units.
it's actually zoned.
The zoning change, when they did the zoning change to get rid of the asphalt plant, they made it a multifamily zoning.
So 52 units is very acceptable then?
56, I think, is with the 9 acres.
With the acreage and everything else like that.
Not that we're advocating
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that, just saying that factually, that's 9, is it, Brad, 9 acres, it's 56?
Yeah, so Rogers and also land up 20. If you're doing single-family development, it's 15,000 square feet, so it's close to a per acre. Under the multifamily, 4 units per acre, 6 units per acre, each unit over 4, is 1 affordable per acre. So it becomes 6 per acre, and then 20.
Most of the homes, I think, on Rogers Avenue, I think that we're on about a half acre. And
The minimum is always 15,000 square feet, so it's closer to a third of an acre.
I think the yield they used in the environmental impact statement is 27 single-family homes.
That's the equivalent of the 52 units, or 27, did you?
27.
Yeah. That's the thing, it's not an application for us to change the zoning or, it's allowable to put either 27 single-family homes or 56, 57 multifamily units.
well, let's talk about the traffic. I remember that I watched one of the Zoom meetings, and those traffic studies discussed. And I know that the neighborhood did put together a considerable amount of money, at least for us, to have someone do a study for us. And they brought us some what I felt were very valid points in the flaws in the study that the developer had done. And I haven't heard any changes in that or any comeback to that as to, so in my mind, this is still a flawed study. And one of the things that makes me feel it's a flawed study is I remember when the little rubber hoses were across the road. It was during COVID, when a lot of people were working at home, and it wasn't in the summer months. I mean, it was not the time when we were going to get an accurate accounting of the traffic. I mean, granted, it's not their fault that COVID hit. I mean, that changed the whole world. But I don't feel that it was even remotely an accurate representation of what's going to happen to this neighborhood. I know the difference right now between winter and summer months. I know how, the summer people come out and a lot of them discovered Rogers Avenue, and that's the shortcut. So we have increased traffic, just that. This is going to be a totally different thing. And our house is like there's a sliver of Lilco property, and then next to the asphalt plant, and then our house is the first one there. And we weren't notified, I guess, because we weren't one of the properties that was directly, attached to it. So we weren't really ever notified that this was, all happening and everything. So we kind of got, we were kind of aware of this at a later date. And like I said, I've been going through health issues, so I haven't really been able to participate in this process. Let me just catch my breath. The biggest thing is the traffic. I know they put like new water mains in. We've had very low water pressure at the end of Rogers Avenue, you know, for a lot of years. And we put our own well in so that we could put our sprinklers off of that because, you know, the pressure wasn't well. So I feel like, you know, my question is, was this water, were the water lines upgraded in anticipation of this new development?
That's, yeah,
No,
that's
just the
something.
water authority just did that on it.
Yeah,
They
well,
tell us when they're coming in.
God bless them, we're happy that.
I'm so glad it worked.
I think they knew about the low water pressure from years ago when they finally got around to it.
And we've been, you know, like I said, you know, we've got paved streets, we got water, things are going great and everything, and now we're looking at having traffic jams. And I've heard recently, like the traffic is the biggest thing. I love having neighbors. Traffic, this is just a horrific idea. And I've heard that, you know, it's been offered that they'll put speed bumps on Rogers Avenue. I can't even, I mean, seriously, most of you sitting here, and I'm just going to be blunt about that. This is going to piss a lot of people off, okay? I'm just going to use the language, because that's true. I hate going through People's United Bank in Riverhead, the route I take from my office to go to the daily bank deposit, these little speed bumps, and I don't know, my vehicle just does not do well with them. I have to slow down to like 2 miles an hour to gently go over each one. I don't want to have to drive down Rogers Avenue going 2 miles an hour, stopping to go 2 miles an hour to go over a speed bump.
Yeah.
It's like Rogers Avenue will now be operating as a parking lot, essentially, with speed bumps. That is not the solution. The solution is to not have, you know, potentially, you know, 104 cars, you know, coming and going on this thoroughfare on a daily basis. So that is all I have to say about that. The traffic is the biggest problem. The townhomes that will develop on Riverhead Road, that's great. You know, it gave a lot of people, you know, people a place to live in, and that's a great thing. It was on a major road, a road that was developed with probably a concrete base and asphalt over it. It's wide, it has shoulders. You know, it was made for that. Rogers Avenue and Hazelwood and Rogers Avenue Extension were a small, these are residential streets. This is not a main thoroughfare. And it's going to, the traffic is going to turn it into a main thoroughfare, which it was not designed to do. So, thank you for listening. Oh, and yes, it will increase the taxes. The village will have a windfall with all, you know, with 53 units on there and everything. And that's a great thing for the village, but not at the expense of destroying the character of the neighborhood.
Well, I think you've done an excellent job in expressing your feelings on this, so you might not think you're good at public speaking, but you did it well.
Thank you. I just, this is an important subject to me and my family.
I can tell you're passionate.
Thank you for your consideration.
You're welcome. Would anyone else like to speak about the Rogers Avenue development?
I would just have a question, I don't want to never speak.
But you have to
You
get
have
up. That's the rule.
I really only want a question answered. I'm
Public
Chuck McCullough,
record.
46 Rogers Avenue, 39 years. I spent 20 years Suffolk County PD, you know, footman, communications, section burglary, should have stayed there. Then I went to Drug Task Force and Highway Patrol. In
What did you say your name is?
I saw enough disasters with the traffic. Right now, every once in a while, I'll come out raking my leaves, and I'll get somebody burning down at 60 miles per hour down there. That 25 mile per hour thing, that's a mere suggestion. And I'm going to tell you, I spoke last year about this. We have the traffic. Everybody knows the bypass, the major intersection. They get to the VFW, they hang a left, and they burn down the extension. They come down Rogers, and I just watch them. Oh, I wish I was back on the job with this. It would be a moneymaker. But that's the only part. What I told them last time, and I was corrected by the gentleman who came up, I forget what, he's 4 houses up from there, 3. And he lived in a development that they're talking about building with 52 units. And he said that 104, because that's the first number I gave, he said, that's out the window. You come on a weekend and you're gonna have over 300 cars in there. He said, guaranteed. Now, I told him, I said, well, you know, they come out for the weekend, and I've seen them, hey, you first after me, I gotta get down there and get it, because I gotta get back to the pool or the barbecue and everything, and they crank down that Rogers Avenue extension. The child at 87 Rogers Avenue, I am gonna put money on the table, he's gonna be your first favorite. That kid is always out there, come down the driveway on a skateboard and everything. I've seen him pull right in front of a lady with a Mercedes SUV. I was coming northbound. I saw him coming out of the driveway. She didn't. I go, oh my God, here it goes. Somehow she saw him and she stopped. And I promise you, I've had one accident that I handled down there where a young lady came down early on a Sunday morning. Maybe the sun was in her eyes, I don't know. She hit a parked car. And she ended up over in my buddy Fowle's house in the woods. I ran down there and gave first aid, and she was pretty broken up. And that's about the only serious accident I remember in the last couple of years other than the deer. We've had incidents with the deer. But if this project goes through, and I'm telling you now, it's going to be a horror story. And I only have one other question, and speed bumps, was that really a consideration?
Let me just say that the speed bumps were something that our village engineer has advised us against doing, but it was the neighbors that have come forward requesting not speed bumps maybe, but speed humps too.
It's more of a platform situation.
It's something that the neighborhood is requesting from us.
Before I go into that, I would check with the local rescue units, because I remember when I was on the job, we had a problem up in Ronkonkoma with bringing the ambulances, the cardio ambulance, that had to keep going 7 miles per hour and to keep the generator going. So for the cardio unit. So I don't know. I would check with them first before I even thought about even the speed bumps or the others. But I want to thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to comment tonight?
Good evening. Joseph Pajak, I live at number 86 Rogers. I think it was my son that was on the skateboard. I'm going to talk to him when I get home. But it's a scary thought, because it really it rings true. I mean, everyone has said it here. I mean, we're not all here. I mean, everyone's here because they're concerned. Even if they don't speak, we're all concerned about this. So I'll do my best to put some of this into words. But you know, the traffic on our street is bad now, and you know, with 52 units, it's going to get a heck of a lot worse. And I think the speed bumps thing was something that we might have reacted to as a comment to say, hey, you know, if this steamroller of a development is going to go forward, you know, what can we do? But I don't think that steep speed bumps are a solution. They are a Band-Aid. And I think the real root of the issue, you know, needs to be addressed. A couple comments. I mean, I think it's important to go back, I don't know, 15 years, I think, when the zoning was changed. I think it's important to go back there to that time and just recognize that per the village clerk who responded to an inquiry I had, there were no neighbors or residents directly informed of the zoning change when it changed from an asphalt plant to a multifamily that would allow the density that we're discussing. I think that's huge. No neighbors were directly notified. The only notification that they had was if they picked up a paper and happened to read in a public notice section. And I mean, that's just crazy, because we may not be here today if the zoning was changed to be consistent with the single-family zoning that is surrounding the property.
I just want to say that there wasn't an error on that prior board's part. That's not required by the code. It's just like tonight's public hearing. We put in the public notice section of the newspaper, we put it on the website, and, you know, it may not be adequate in people's opinions, and maybe that needs to change, but I just wanted to let you know that if you thought it was done in error, it wasn't. That's the procedure in this village and other villages and towns. When it's a planning board matter or zoning board, then the notices go out to those particular, you know, within a 250-foot radius, but with matters before the Board of Trustees or the town councils,
Zone
it's
changes
just-
are not sent out to everybody because it affects the entire area that you're in.
And I would point out that that's not set by the village. That requirement's set by state law and the village law. And so I presume, I didn't look and see what their jurisdiction was, but I assume back 15, 20 years ago that they followed the state mandated public notice requirements when they adopted the zone change. But I'm sure it was done in conformance with that village law provision.
The zone change was done legally, so there's nothing we can do about it. We can't change it anymore. It's done and over.
I understand. It's still just as shocking that the zoning was changed to the density that it was, given the surrounding density.
yeah.
That's all. That's all.
I mean, this board, we were thinking of changing the zoning on Potunk Avenue, and we, as a courtesy, did send out letters to the people that lived on Potunk, but, and wasn't required, but we did it because we thought it was appropriate, but, you know, maybe just didn't occur to a prior board to do that.
Understood. You know, and I think what, you know, I don't want to harp on about it because I realize it's in the past, but I think what is shocking is that, like the other speaker before me, you know, Rogers Avenue is an unmarked 20 to 25 foot wide road, and to have, you know, multifamily housing on that road, it just doesn't make sense. You don't need to be a town planner or, you know, an architect or whatever to recognize that. It just doesn't make sense. Just a few other points I want to make. You know, I feel like, you know, when I work on projects, there's negotiations with clients and agencies and boards, and I get the sense from these hearings that, you know, we've been coming to for the last 2 years that it seems to be a little bit one-sided, and I feel like there could be some more, you know, proactive reasoning and recognition of neighbors' comments by the part of the developer to say, hey, you know what, we heard you. We're going to scale back the number of units. We really want to see this project go forward, but we understand that a lot of people are concerned, and we're going to dial it back as to show you that we care about, you know, maintaining the character of the neighborhood, or, you know, keeping the road safe. So I hope that this board can somehow, you know, make that happen. I'm not sure how, you know, how that works, but I just wanted to mention that. I mean, I think also, I think with a development of this size, and again, it was mentioned that there's I don't know the name of it offhand, across on Old Riverhead Road. the dunes at West Hampton Beach. Sounds familiar? But there's a decent buffer separating that development, a decent sized and planted buffer separating that development from Old Riverhead Road. I think no matter what happens here with the number of units and the type of them, there needs to be a buffer in place to help maintain the character of the single-family neighborhood. And I'd even go one step further and say that, you know, a lot of people are talking about the kids, my kids, and you know, I would even take it one step further and say that, you know, I think these developments tend to be utilized by seasonal residents. And I would love if there was some aspect of a development this size that gave something back to the neighborhood that it's taking from. And maybe that's a walking trail, maybe that's a tennis court, maybe that's, I don't know, something. I don't know where the rules are in that, but I feel like when it's lying dormant for 5 months out of the year, maybe, you know, the kids can use it. Maybe there's a park, maybe there's a kid's little park. Talked about the screening from the street. And I think, obviously, a stop sign at the blind corner of Rogers Avenue Extension and Rogers Avenue is long overdue.
That's proposed.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Even another stop sign probably wouldn't hurt, as in, you know, as opposed to speed bumps. You know,
Yep.
yeah, the other intersection I think is.
Fine.
Thank you. And yeah, I think that's it. I think just in closing, I think, you know, I'm a fan of housing. Just not this size, this density, on this location because of the reasons that me and countless others have expressed. It just doesn't make sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
You,
Joe.
Joe. Is Jeff okay?
Hey folks, Chris Clapp, 51 Rogers Avenue. Thank you, Mayor Moore and the trustees. Good to see you all. You know, I just want to start by, you know, just being real clear of what this is and what this is not, right? So I'd like to, you know, for their sake, separate the existing traffic conditions versus the proposed traffic conditions, right? And then I'm not going to harp on that too much. And the only thing I will say is that, you know, and please don't take this the wrong way, 'cause I'd like and respect all of you guys. But we shouldn't look to other people to fix a situation that you know is wrong. It's your road. There's an existing problem. We should work on that together to fix our own problems. We shouldn't put that on them. And quite frankly, we shouldn't put it on solely on the police back either. They have lots of other things to do in this village. So I think that the community and the village can work together on the existing state, okay? And focus on that, right? And try and, you know, the two have been conflated this whole time. And I think the real concern with the project is the additional volume that will be added. As Jeff said, you know, it's not 104 cars, right? 104 trips. That's each one of those cars doing 2, 3, 4 trips a day because they go to and from work. They probably go to the store once or twice or to a school event, right? So it's you know, it's exponentially more than just the number of cars, right? So, and I believe in the report, it's something like 33, up to 33 additional trips an hour. Is that correct, Brian? Something in there. So it's not on average, right? Spread that out throughout the whole day. So it's not an insignificant amount of increase. And just because the environmental impact statement found, no significant impact, or the planning board, passed the application on to you because it checked all the boxes, in no way, shape, or form does that mean it doesn't have an impact, right? So if every development on Long Island actually had no impact, right? How many of those environmental impact statements were every development on Long Island said, no significant impact. Oh, and by the way, you're going to get this added tax revenue. We would have the lowest taxes and no traffic all over Long Island if every single development had no impact and positive tax base gain, right? So I don't think that that's the world we live in, right? Last I checked, most highly dense places have higher taxes, right? So, if you're looking to that little box at the bottom of their impact statement says this is what the village has to gain, it ignores what might happen to the schools and the school tax rate, right? That's the village tax rate, but, the base goes up. So, I think we have to be really careful when trying to weigh some of these cost benefits. And then, one of the things I asked the planning board pretty early on, because they are the planning board, was what are the cumulative impacts of this project and let's say the concrete mill closes. And that's also zone multifamily now, right? And the other multifamily developments, right? So this project alone, you have 104 more beach stickers. You might have another 100 cars trying to get a parking spot on Main Street. How much density are we going to pack into this little village until it becomes unattractive? Right? Are we going to build a parking garage now? Are we going to start to pay for parking on Main Street? Are we only going to get one beach pass at the beaches as a result? So what are the compounding impacts? Because we know what's going to happen. One project, well, you did it for them. They checked all their boxes. We checked our boxes. Give us our 52 units, right? So, I think there's a slippery slope here when you have this discretionary judgment here. This is at your discretion to approve this project. You're not compelled to do this. The planning board sent a very clear statement that they were uncomfortable with passing it on. And then even the loophole to get the 6 units per acre of affordable housing, it's not affordable housing, right? So, listen, if they wanted to do a development of 18, if they were, 36 units all affordable, and we're actually going to have families that live and work here, that's different. They're utilizing these tiny little units as justification to get their bonus density. That's all that is. Mm-hmm. It's just a justification to get the 20% bonus density or bump them up from the 4 units per acre to 6 units. So, that's what it is, and that's what it's not. And then, to the easement thing, we cannot abandon easements held in the public trust for private gain. The precedence that sets is outrageous.
Chris, one clarification, we don't have complete discretion, we have some discretion in this.
This is a special exemption permit, you have, it's a discretion.
Not complete, I'm just correcting the word, that's wrong. We have some.
You have latitude.
Some.
Yes.
Just want to be clear.
Yes. And, I know that, if you ever got I haven't, but on permits, it says, this is not the decision on this permit is not precedent setting. But I think we've all, sat through enough planning board meetings or ARB meetings or whatever they might be. And Mr. Homey gets up and says, well, here's 46 flag lots. There's precedence here. Each one of those permits might have had a thing that said this is not precedent setting. But the first thing a lawyer does when they come in for their client is says, well, you've done it all these times before, and then no one goes back and checks and says, oh yeah, but those aren't precedents. They very clearly come up and say, it's our opinion that it is. Okay, so I think we just have to be really careful here. Be happy to work with the board, the engineer, the DPW guys, and law enforcement to do something about the existing situation. More than happy to work with everyone. And looking to others to try and solve that is not the responsible thing to do. So, and adding to a problem. So, giving up a variance to get more units is not exactly a way to solve the challenge, I think. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Hi, I'm Ann Smalley. I live in Patio Villas. I don't live near Rogers Avenue, but I know what they mean about the shortcut because I am guilty of doing that a couple of times, but I don't speed when I do it. But I'm not sure if the Rogers Avenue development is aware of 138 other communities or units that are also up in front of the planning board. So when that gentleman spoke about the beaches and the parking on Main Street, we don't just have to think about the 52 Rogers Avenue units, we have to think about the additional 138 units, which is why I joined the beach club. So I don't have to fight for parking at Rogers, but I will still have to fight for parking on Main Street, which yesterday I went to Main Street and I couldn't find a parking space between the patio restaurant and the Walgreens on either side of the street. So it's going to become more and more of a problem.
What is it that you're referring to with the numbers?
The 16 senior housing units that are up for approval on Old Riverhead Road across from Tonino's. The 22 Beechwood homes that are, they were before the Architectural Review Board on Tuesday night. They're going to be on half-acre lots and selling for up to $3.7 million. Hope they like planes, trains, and automobiles. The 48 units that right now are being referred to as patio gardens that were in front of all of the boards back in 2008 and didn't finish, but they've now been bought by WH Equity, and they've been in front of the planning board a few times.
So that's 84, I think. that's 84 with those three locations.
They're on Montauk Highway between Depot Road.
No, I know where they are. I'm just saying
Talking about
that's
the total.
84, and I was
Total
wondering
number.
where what your total was referring to. You had a number that was much higher.
22, 48, oh, and the 104 affordable housing units acquired.
Okay,
Oh,
that's out of
yeah.
our jurisdiction.
Yeah, we have no,
Add all of that, all of those cars, we're thinking maybe 500 more cars in our little village with a volunteer ambulance and a volunteer fire department.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments for tonight?
Sorry, I'm the one with the baby who's very vocal today. My name is Julie Zasher. I live at 127 Rogers Avenue, which is on the corner of Hazelwood and Rogers Avenue Extension. I wrote this at 3 in the morning with a colicky baby, so I hope that it resonates and makes some sort of sense, but it did at the time. We were told by the planning board not to simply say that we don't like that. And we were told to give tangible things which impact our neighborhood, community character, traffic, congestion, etc. Which I found really ironic because I think you would be hard pressed to find anyone who says this asphalt plant really raises my property value or really brings an aesthetic to the neighborhood. I mean, it has been an eyesore. It's not something we want in our neighborhood. So we do want this to be developed. We are excited for something that's not so visually unappealing to be in the neighborhood. But I also feel like it has to be respectful to the existing neighborhood that we have. So with that, the developer, we were told not to say we don't like that. The developer, however, said he's just simply not interested in developing anything less than 53 units, period. So we can't say that we don't like that, but he can say, I'm not interested. With that, I understand that he's in the business to make a profit. However, why can't 37 units at the same exact square footage make the same profit as 53 units at that square footage? We live in a small village, and the decisions made by this board have a ripple effect far into the future. The decisions you make become the village legacy. A small example of this is the car repair shop that's on the corner of Rogers Avenue Extension and Old Riverhead Road. We received a package from the village stating that they wanted to simply smooth over some of the blacktop in the back of the property. We didn't argue against it or request it be denied because it was a small ask. That small ask has led to increased noise, loud banging and drilling on vehicles and cars up until 11 p.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday nights, glaring lights that shine into our property and our neighbors' properties. I'm assuming some part of their security measures. And also parked cars on both sides of Rogers Avenue Extension from this business. So the point being is that that small ask turned into be a very big headache. Now you have a developer here who is pushing a big ask. He is asking for special permission to change the density of a neighborhood. There are no guarantees as to the ripple effect of this. However, this is such a small village and only so much land to develop. This is an opportunity to ensure the legacy of this board is one that maintains the village aesthetic. And although it's single-family housing, you cannot guarantee that. There are many single-family homes in this village which have 3 or 4 families living. It's not legal, but it happens. And if you don't believe me, ask the fire department. My brother's a volunteer firefighter. He has gone into some of these homes that they've been called to, and there are 3 or 4 families living in this home. So it can't be guaranteed that these 53 units won't actually have 75 families. It's a ripple effect. My adopted aunt and uncle live down Rogers Avenue from me. They are not my relatives by blood, but they became my family by community. They lived down the street from me as I was growing up. My mother, who spoke before, mentioned us forgetting our keys. I would walk down the street to get keys from them. My son will be able to ride his bike down to their house. When someone's dog gets out in our neighborhood, we have a group who text each other immediately to try and locate the dog. And the fear that motivates me when I don't want to really go out in February to find someone's dog is the close proximity that we have to Old Riverhead Road. That's our buffer. If the dog or the child gets to Old Riverhead Road, it's most likely going to have catastrophic consequences. So we have to act quickly. We have a group. We text. We are all out calling for the dog, looking for the dog. If this project goes through, there is no buffer. There's no call out to the neighbors. Someone's dog got out. Someone's child is missing. The buffer is non-existent, and our neighborhood is now the danger zone because of the increased traffic. So Our neighborhood collectively pulled together to hire an attorney to have a voice. We are busy working, raising our families. We're all mostly middle class. And we depend on you to fight to maintain the voice of the village and to protect our community, uphold the atmosphere and the aesthetic. We are excited, and I think that's a pretty big deal, by the way, that we all pulled together to hire an attorney to represent us, because as my mother had previously said, it's difficult to get everyone organized. And the fact that we were able to rally mostly due to Chris is a huge accomplishment of the neighborhood. And I think that speaks to the strength of our neighborhood. We are excited to not have an asphalt plant. However, the excitement is rivaled by the fear of what the ripple effect of our community will be between this board and the planning board. Our entire future is in your hands. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? All right, if that's it for tonight, I'd like to...
I'm sorry,
Oh,
I
yes.
have 2 points to respond to some of the points. I'll be very, very brief,
That's
because I
fine.
know it's been long. On the comment that this buffer area was in a public trust and that it couldn't be the easement that we were talking about before, the easement itself has in it the following: the burden premises, again, that's the easement area, shall not be open or available to the public for general or park use by reason of this easement, but shall instead remain at all times in the grantor's exclusive possession as subject to the grantor's unqualified right to exclude all others therefrom by any and all lawful means. This is in the easement itself, so this did not create a public trust, which is a legal concept where the village owns parkland kind of things and cannot alienate it. This expressly took that out of it. The other brief comment I'll make on the traffic comments is that the improvements to this property, the number of units we were going to have was thoroughly studied through the CEQA process. It was amended several times, and Ron can attest to that, to add calculating impacts cumulative from the other developments that hit the planning board shelf while we were going through the process. That patio gardens, the 22-unit subdivision were all added in a supplemental CEQA document. And the conclusion of the village's traffic expert and the conclusion of the CEQA process was that the addition of these 52 units will not have a significant impact on the traffic in that area. We all know, and I stood here, or I zoomed here last time, that there is a very real traffic problem with people speeding through that roadway. It's going to affect us, and you may recall I said we're going to be neighbors too. And we are equally concerned with the traffic problems of this transient use going through as a cut-through. But that's the real traffic issue, we believe, that's there. And that based on all the studies that have been conducted about our project in conjunction with the impacts of neighborhood projects, the addition of this 52 units has been found not to have a potential significant impact on traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank? All right, well, it's time for us now, if there's no more comments, to have a motion to close the public hearing.
Move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then what I thought we would do is to have a dialogue amongst ourselves.
There's a lot of stuff that was said there. Do you want to continue, do you want to have a public thing, or maybe we should think about what was said at the meeting and look at the transcript or whatever and discuss at the work session?
I'd like to do that, yeah. Because I left my notes downstairs too, so I would have to go down and get them.
Yeah, I think
And
we
I
should-
think
There's a lot to
everybody's a
discuss.
little bit
So why
leery.
don't you, yeah, you've closed the public hearing. It would be on whether it's the next meeting or whatever, for determination, and it will be discussed openly with the board after we think about all these, you think about all these things at the work session.
At our work session on April, what's that, Liz, the third Wednesday?
20th.
April 20th. All right, so on April 20th, the board, we're going to discuss, we're going to have a dialogue about all these concepts. We're going to express what each of us feels should happen and come to some conclusions that then our village attorney will write up for us to consider in a draft form. And of course, if we have any other questions in the meantime, we'll reach out. And you're all welcome, of course, to come back on April 20th at 5 o'clock when we do that.
Yeah, I would point out, though, that at the work session, it's not a public hearing. We just have, the board has an obligation to deliberate publicly so that everybody here, the applicant and all the people who spoke and everybody who's interested, can listen to what their thoughts are. But it's not going to be another public hearing.
Yeah. Ron, I would like it if you could come back for that too, because I did have a question or two to ask. All right, yeah, Kyle couldn't be here with us, maybe he can be here for that too. All right, well, thank you all. This is really a good example of everyone participating in government. It was good to see you all, and we'll probably see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
Mayor, just so you know, I'm not going to be here on the 20th.
What?
I'm going to be in Spain. Cancel that. We're going for 2 weeks to Spain. I can't
I'm not going to
cancel
be here
that.
the 20th either.
What? Are you kidding me?
No.
Why didn't you tell me? All right, we're gonna have to put out a notice then, that we'll do it,
Committee.
maybe we'll have a special meeting.
What about the budget meeting?
The hell are you?
I'm gone for that.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, budget meeting is not
Village Hall's
on,
closed.
that's not on my, that wasn't on the calendar.
The budget meeting was,
No. When we set the annual calendar?
yeah. The budget hearing is on there.
The annual calendar?
Yeah.
Really?
Liz? Yeah.
It's on the meeting calendar? Yeah, because
Oh, you're not gonna be here for the budget meeting either?
no, I'm gonna be gone from, I leave the 13th in the afternoon, I'm back the 23rd.
The budget's not a big deal. You already gave your comments.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I'm saying, I don't need to be.
Oh, I know why you're leaving town.
Because what?
Bill Sutton's gonna talk
About what?
about my raise.
You think so?
No, I'm kidding.
You're so ridiculous.
I know.
Microphone's on.
All right. Make a motion, we open the public hearing on 107 Old Riverhead Road.
Second.
Let's bring it back down, everybody.
We have to,
Everyone let off a little steam.
all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's on now. Too tall, yes. Good evening. For the applicant, James N. Hume, 323 Road, West Hampton Beach, New York. Also is Erwin Basnow, who LLC that is the applicant in this matter. And we're here to discuss, as was indicated, a project that we've been working on for some time, located at 107 Riverhead Road. And this, you can see, is the site plan. What is being proposed here is a gas station with 16 fueling stations distributed over 8 actual pumps, and a slightly less than 4,000 square foot convenience store in size. It's on a property that's approximately 70,000 square feet in a zone. We're in the B3, in a zone that requires only 50,000 square feet. It's in a zone that requires a street frontage of 150 feet. We have 258 feet, and it's in a zone that allows 20% coverage, and we're only proposing covering 12% of the property. So we're certainly not overusing the property that as it exists. And as you can see, well, let me briefly go over the history of how we've gotten here. As I've indicated, we spent a fair bit of time in front of the planning board and with the planner on developing the plan that we're presenting to you. Tonight, we also took a detour to the zoning board. We were required to get 2 variances, one to build a convenience store that's a little bit larger than the 3,000 square feet that's permitted in this zone for this kind of use, and to allow the building to be set back not 50 feet from the rear property line, but 41.7 feet.
What, you already have that application in?
That application has been, that variance has been granted.
Oh,
So-
the zoning board granted the variance
Yes.
on the size of the building too already?
Yes, yes, they did. Yes, they did. So what we're presenting tonight is the result of a lot of back and forth with the planning board and
ZBA.
the ZBA approval. And we think that we have most recently satisfied most of the planning board requirements relative to the building that I'm about to show you. The other thing I wanted to comment about the zoning board procedure was they found that under secret for this to be a type 2 action, so there was no more environmental review necessary. Just as a matter of interest, perhaps, that's why the building is 3,999 square feet, because the threshold for the type 2 action is 4,000 square feet. We're 1 square foot less than that for that and other reasons. We are scheduled to go before the ARB on the 19th of this month, but as this board is well aware, the ARB is merely advisory to the planning board, and the planning board has the ultimate decision, I believe, as to the ultimate, the final version of the architecture here. Other approvals outside the village are the health department, which is in the works, and other county agencies, none of which should affect what we're about to present tonight. So, as I indicated, displayed right now is the site plan. You can see the canopy with the 8 pump stations that account for the 16 pumping units, and the store at the back. We're accessing the site in 2 places, one on the north end of the property, and the exit from there is a right turn only, so people won't be coming out onto Riverhead Road and trying to make a left turn. And the planning board stressed the importance of signage and curbage and all kinds of things to make sure that people can't turn left when they come out that way. The other way to enter and exit the property is on the south end, and it actually empties out onto the driveway that serves the storage facility that is directly behind us, and then people can go out to the road.
So it's only one curb cut on the main road?
Yeah, and the county highway department seemed quite happy with that.
Yeah, that's good.
We're far enough below the railroad for the north entrance, and we're not creating another entrance on the south end.
Your right-hand turn, you're going to do it by curbing or you're going to do it by signage?
All the above, yes. Yes.
But the curbing is the one that works the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, physical. Physical.
They call it a pork chop. It's kind of like,
Yep.
It's called the pork, they're doing the pork chop?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's
So we
it.
go- technical term, it is engineer gate. If you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is an aerial photograph showing the site superimposed on what's a vacant lot right now, which used to be part of the lot that the storage facility occupies. But anyway, this is the storage facility to our west, the road, Riverhead Road to the east, and then the county highway barn, no, the town
highway barn
is across the street there. The railroad tracks above us, and the VFW is directly below us, and there's a lot of landscaping there already between us and them, so they're probably not going to see very much of us. We meet the parking requirements for the site. There's a rather nice dumpster enclosure proposed. We talked about the right turn only, the entrances. So we talked about that. So we could go to the next page, and that's the elevation of the front of the store with a, I'm not an architect, but I believe they call that a reverse gable. Is that true? Whatever, I don't know. Yes, yes. So that's the front of the store. Over here you can see the hardy plank, I believe, and a stone veneer on the base. At the planning board request, there's a lot more glass in the front than there is in a typical, or past typical store of this nature. Over here is the dumpster enclosure that matches architecturally the style of the building itself. And this is just a side view down here. Pull that down a little bit. That's one side of that building. Yeah. So it's 25 feet in height at the peak, which is well within the code requirement.
Why would you have the dumpsters up at the front instead of in the back?
Well, it's on the side, and as you'll see in a later slide, it's very well landscaped, and we had extensive discussions with the planning board about where it would best go, and that location seemed to be the best just so that we could get a truck in and out of it. But I think you will agree when you see some of the landscaping that it won't be very visible, and we're spending a little bit of extra money to make, if you do see it, to make it look nice, and it will be maintained in the circumstances that we now have. That's that. Side view, so if we can just go to the next. This is the canopy over the gas pumps themselves, and at the request of the planner, we had initially proposed just one reverse dormer in the center, but we like the idea of all three centered over the access ways, and then you can see there's an angled roof at the side, and that's approximately 23 feet in height over the top of the structure. So that is, so if you go to the next one, this is not fully a landscape plan, but it is a landscape rendering, and if you can bring it up just a little bit. Here's the dumpster location here. There's some substantial landscaping proposed right around there. You're not going to see it from the road, except maybe when you're down here, and it will be pretty well shielded. Lots of landscape material in the buffer in the front. Adequate aisle inside for vehicles as well as gasoline trucks to get in and get out without too much difficulty. And the plan seems to flow pretty well. If you want to get a little different perspective on what it will look like, if you can go sort of look like that on the next slide. Now, you'll note that this is actually an earlier version of this rendering, so the canopy that we're actually proposing is a little different than what's proposed, what's shown here. But this will give you a good sense of what and we're not talking at all about signage here, so just ignore all the signs that are on there. That's an application for another day. So I think this gives you a good view of the landscaping that's in place, that's proposed. It's going to look a lot nicer than the vacant, empty, overgrown lot, I think. No offense to the storage place in the back, but it's kind of massive, and this kind of breaks up that whole view as well. So, that's basically the project, and we're here because of the requirements of the village code, and to look at the various impacts. And the code requires you all to consider the character of the existing and probable development in the area. I think this actually improves the circumstances that are there now as opposed to otherwise. The conservation of property values, I think in this part of town, this helps. I think, we've gone the extra step to make it look as nice as we possibly could, because we recognize that this is the entrance to the building, one of the entrances to the village. So we, in the context of what is permitted use here or a special exception use here, I think we've done a nice job of preserving that value. Let's see. Septic, sewage, we're going to obviously put in whatever the health department requires, the modern system. The availability of utilities, etc. Obviously, all of that is available to us in the street. Does this create a hazard to life within the property? I would suggest because of fire, flood, erosion, or panic, and I suspect not. I mean, sometimes somebody would have a Slurpee, they might get a little anxious, but I don't think that they'll panic. And does it cause overcrowding of the land, undue concentration of population? I think we're really, based on the dimensions of the property and the impacts of the use, we're really underusing the property to the, we could use the property to a greater extent than what we're proposing. So in a nutshell, that's the project, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you for taking us through those steps and for laying out the project. And I say, well done. It looks great to me. I don't have any questions.
I think it looks like a really nice project, well thought out, and I'd like to compliment our planning board and zoning board and the other entities that work with us. It seems like things are really well thought through. I like it.
And it's a very constructive discussion that we have.
Good.
We'll go back and forth.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be.
And
That's the way it's supposed to work.
That's the way it's supposed to work, and you're supposed to have willing to accept some of the things that they have.
Yeah, no,
The only thing I didn't get was the 12%.
Because of the fact he's using the canopy.
Oh.
Otherwise, it's like 5%.
It's 5.something% the building.
Because they're using the canopy.
The canopy is considered coverage.
Yeah.
Lot coverage.
Yes,
Okay.
covered space. But that still only gets us to 12. We could
Yeah.
cover-
Oh, yeah, I didn't have a question, I just, the number of this, when it,
I have the same.
And he promised me he wasn't going to talk.
would you like to say a few words? You're welcome to, against advice of your counsel.
Well, my counselor who's home tonight would tell me not to say anything.
Depending on what he's about to say, that might be good advice.
Quit while you're ahead, right, Jim?
Yes.
No, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity of allowing us to even take this project to fruition when you originally allowed us to do a C-store as an accessory use to the gas station. Like Brian said, we spent a lot of time with the planning board and a lot of back and forth in terms of the design, the heights, the canopy, the gables, the colors, and the landscaping to make it, when you come to the village, it'll be a nice thing to see. And I think it'll also make it a lot easier because it'll be a lot easier for people to get in and out and get, refreshments, get gas. I think it's going to also help with people coming on and off the train and being able to get coffee when they, get on the train or getting a refreshment when they get off the train. So I think it'll be a good benefit to the community. Like I said, I lived here half the year. I'm excited about it. I hope everybody else is. And again, I appreciate that the board worked with me from day one and was interested in this. The planning board has been working with me forever. Kyle's had a lot of input that we worked with him to make sure that we kind of covered any of the things that he wants, and we're looking forward to being in front of the ARB in 2 weeks and then finalizing everything with the planning board after that.
Well, we're glad you stuck with it and, kept working with the planning board on the back and forth so everybody got to a place that they were satisfied.
Thank you.
So thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh,
We have someone who wants to speak.
would anybody like to speak? Yes.
Ask a question.
Yes.
I had a question about the egress. Is there any possibility of egress through to Depot Road, or is that not going to happen?
For this project?
for this project here to go through it,
Right.
they couldn't, because of the security of the storage facility, yes.
Right, but along the train tracks, there is a double path where trucks sometimes go through.
That's owned by the MTA.
This gentleman mentioned people getting off the train and going over to 7-Eleven. Is that ever going to be paved, and then people will take through from Riverhead Road onto Depot Road to avoid light that is already awful?
No.
There's bollards over there by the train station.
Yeah. They couldn't drive through there. And that's owned by the MTA and Long Island Railroad. We have no control.
It become a paved road.
Yeah.
Also,
No, they closed it. It used to be there. I don't know if you've been around long
I've
enough.
been here since 1950.
Yeah. So you remember when you used to be able to drive through there, when the lumber yard was
I
there.
remember
Right.
they put pennies on the track for the trains to run them over.
Yes, I used to do that.
One other thing, the Gabreski Airport Community Advisory Board had a big meeting in Riverhead last evening. Since I live in Pattioville, as does Mr. Eisler, who left a few minutes ago, planes come through very low over our community. They almost go through his roof. Luckily, I live a little bit further south, so they don't come that close to my roof. But I don't know if the 7-Eleven with the gas pumps has spoken with the airport about the runways, because the way these planes are coming in, I would hate for one of them to miss and end up on top of the gas pump. So they should probably let the airport know that the runways that are on that diagonal path.
Yeah, the main runway there, that's.
Keep in mind that there'll be 16 gas pumps there. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? All right, then I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to move on to the resolutions.
And we're not going to read the heading.
We're not.
No, just read the heading.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks, boss.
Yeah, we
I
talked
love
about
it.
that this afternoon, right, Mayor?
We did talk about it. I didn't think we made a decision.
I mean, you want to read the...
I'm okay with it.
okay with
No, I don't. I do not.
We'll be here till 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Should we just read the resolved part?
No, just read
Yeah,
it.
no, I think the resolve part should be read.
Okay.
Yeah, resolved? All right.
I was looking forward to
Except
reading the whole
number
thing.
3, read the whole thing.
Which I
Agree?
used to, which is mine.
Oh, yes, you're right.
No, I can't read it.
Well, actually, no, number 3 is just the resolved part anyway, right?
Yeah, some
Yeah.
of them are just the result
Right.
part, yeah.
First one, you just,
Come on, start reading.
You want me to go right to the, you want to do that first?
Want to do the zoning amendment first?
Yeah, do the
Yeah,
law first,
yeah,
and then...
You got to read that whole thing.
No, you can just read the result.
All right, so, reference to LI number 4 of 2022, amend chapter 197-36 zoning. Resolved that the village clerk is hereby directed to enter local law number 4 of 2022 in the records of the village and to give due notice of the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of State.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting for March 3rd, 2022, and special meeting of March 18th, 2022 are hereby accepted.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll read this one, you get to do this.
No, I get, resolved that, I can't read the next one. Resolved that the treasurer's report for February 2022, the Justice Court, Police Department, and Building Inspector's report for March 2022 are hereby accepted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, resolve that
You should bring Jeffrey up here.
come up, you want to...
Come on up.
2 hours.
Such a champ.
Let's go.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Resolve that the Board of Trustees hereby regretfully accept the retirement of Jeffrey Fano effective March 31st, 2022.
Second, regretfully.
Regrettably, all in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain. For some reason.
I'm not going to say much, only because I've been going against Jeff's wishes. This isn't something he wanted. As most of you know, this isn't what Jeff wanted to do, this is what Jeff had to do. Jeff, I don't recall the day that you didn't show up to the police department with a big smile on your face, ready to take on whatever the challenge has been that day. You're an inspiration to us all. We congratulate you on your retirement, and we ask you not to be a stranger. We love having you around. All right.
Short and sweet.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good job, Steve.
Yeah, we'll miss you, Jeff. Definitely.
So good nature
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just love
Yeah.
this job so much.
Yeah.
You want to say anything?
Just thank you for all your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll miss you.
This village.
Okay.
Number 4, appoint engineering firm. Now therefore, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village attorneys to retain the services of Vincent Gaudiello, P.E. of the Rayner Group, P.E. and L.S., P.L.L.C., at the expense of the village to act as an expert and consultant in the defense of the claim of the Patio Building Condominium Corporation at his firm's currently hourly rates, but not to exceed $3,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Create the seasonal use dwelling unit rental registry of the Village of West Hampton Beach. Now therefore it be resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby creates a rental registry entitled Seasonal Use Dwelling Unit Rental Registry of the Village of West Hampton Beach, which is to be administered and maintained by the Village of West Hampton Beach Building Inspector for the purpose of allowing homeowners to qualify their dwelling units as seasonal use dwelling units pursuant to General Obligations Law, Section 7-108, the requirements of which are set forth in General Obligations Law, Section 7-108, and be it further resolved, the building inspector shall use the form attached hereto for homeowners seeking to register their residences as a seasonal use dwelling unit, and be it further resolved, failure to adhere to the requirements of a seasonal use dwelling unit as set forth in General Obligations Law, Section 7-108, shall result in a revocation by the village of the residential dwelling unit from the seasonal use dwelling unit rental registry of the Village of West Hampton Beach.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, well, it's state law, a new state law was passed that you can't take in more than a month's rental as a landlord. But because we have seasonal rentals, they amended the state laws for seasonal rentals. You can take in your 3-month rental amount if you're registered in this register.
Well, no.
That's monthly then. That you can't
Yeah.
collect more than a month's rent in advance.
But for if it's up to 120 days on the rental, then you can collect all of the rent in advance, as long as the village or the municipality has a rental registry, which means you have to submit a copy of the lease. You can redact certain items if you want, but the names have to be there and the dates. And we'll have the form available on the website tomorrow. A lot of people want it, of course, in this environment, you want to be able to get the rent up front when it's just for the season.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the mayor to sign the employment contract for the village police chief effective October 7, 2021 to May 31st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved, the West Hampton Free Library is hereby authorized to use the Rogers Beach Pavilion from July 11, 2022 to September 1st, 2022 for various exercises and yoga classes from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. This permit is subject to change in the event of the NYS restrictions are amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You don't save that much time reading the results.
I know. Resolved that the West Hampton Free Library is hereby authorized to use the Village Green on Tuesdays from July 5th, 2022 to August 23rd, 2022 for the Kids on the Green performance series from 4:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., which includes setup and takedown. This permit is subject to change in the event of New York State restrictions are amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the West Hampton Free Library is hereby authorized to conduct outdoor concerts each Thursday beginning June 30th, 2022 through September 8th, 2022 from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., which includes setup and takedown at the Village Green. This permit is subject to change in the event New York State restrictions are amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the West Hampton Free Library is hereby authorized to use the Great Lawn on Mondays from July 11, 2022 to August 29, 2022 for the Monday night movies from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., which includes setup and takedown. This permit is subject to the change in the event the New York State restrictions are amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the Greater West Hampton Chamber of Commerce is hereby authorized to use the Glover Lane Park for an annual Easter egg and scavenger hunt event on Saturday, April 9th, 2022, from 11 p.m. to 1 p.m.
11 a.m. probably,
11
right?
a.m., sorry.
Yep.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's this Saturday. See y'all there.
Resolved that the Greater West Hampton Chamber of Commerce is hereby authorized to use the village sidewalks on Main Street for the annual sidewalk sale event on Saturday and Sunday, April 30th and May 1st, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday, October 8th and 9th, 2022, with limitations of one clothing rack or table per business and no blocking of the pedestrian walkways or village sidewalks, and follow the New York State COVID-19 protocols.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the All Long Island Beach Cleanup, sponsored by Willie's Super Brew, is hereby authorized to use Rogers and Lashley beaches on Saturday, May 14th and Sunday, May 15th, 2022, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. for a beach-wide cleanup project, subject to the status of the deck repair project and subject to compliance with New York State restrictions in effect on the date of the event.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Surfrider Foundation Eastern Long Island chapter is hereby authorized to use Rogers Beach on Saturday, April 30th, 2022, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. for the beach-wide cleanup project, subject to the status of the deck repair project and subject to the compliance with the New York State restrictions in effect on the date of the event.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the placement of outdoor tables and chairs as shown on the submitted plan, subject to the same set of conditions recommended by the Village Planning Board and plans attached to the applicant's 2022 renewal application.
Could you just read the list of
Businesses.
businesses?
You want the list? Okay.
You don't have to give the address.
Okay, whereas the village received an application to renew the outdoor tables and chairs and bench permit for 2022 with no changes from the 2021 application. Firehouse Pizza, 196 Montauk Highway, 3 picnic tables with attached benches. North Fork Roasting Company, 59 Main Street, 3 tables, 12 chairs. Goldberg's Famous, 65 Main Street, 4 tables, 16 chairs. Haskell Seafood, 77A Main Street, 6 tables, 12 chairs. The Corner Cafe Restaurant, 77A Main Street, 4 picnic tables with attached benches and 2 tables and 4 chairs in front of the store. Shock Ice Cream, 99A Main Street, 3 picnic tables with attached benches and 1 child-sized table.
Okay.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve the renewal of Shock Ice Cream outdoor music permit for 2022, subject to the same set of conditions as set forth on the determination dated August 3rd, 2006, the provisions of Chapter 196-3 of the Village Code, and the requirement that the volume of the amplification shall not be so excessive as to annoy or disturb a reasonable person of normal auditory sensitivity.
Gets you every
Sorry,
time, right?
I just can't. I tried not to laugh, but I can't.
Second.
Can't read
All in
that and
favor?
be serious.
Aye.
Aye.
This is a renewal of outdoor music for North Fork Roasting Company. Be it resolved that the application for outdoor music permit is granted subject to the following conditions. Requirement that the volume and application shall not be excessive so as to annoy or disturb a reasonable person of normal auditory sensitivity. B, it shall be obligation of North Fork Roasting Company that a public sidewalk is not obstructed. C, no substantial deviation from the outdoor music plan shall be allowed without further approval of the Board of Trustees. And D, this permit shall be in effect from May 1st, 2022 to October 31st, 2022 unless previously revoked, and the applicant shall be required to follow the renewal provisions set forth in Section 196-4A of the Village Code for future outdoor music beyond such expiration date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorize the renewal of 2022 outdoor sales and displays permit for Mixology. Be it resolved that the application for the renewal of the outdoor sales permit as is recommended by the Village Planning Board for 1 sales rack as depicted on the attached plan for the application is granted subject to the following conditions. All conditions set forth in section 140-2A shall be followed. No substantial deviation from the outdoor display plan shall be allowed without further approval of the Board of Trustees, and this permit shall be in effect to November 15, 2022, unless previously revoked, and the applicants shall be required to follow the renewal provisions set forth in section 140-2B of the Village Code for further outdoor displays beyond such expiration date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, so just read the heading, right?
Authorize renewal of 2022 outdoor sales and display permit shop for kids.
And
Resolved
then, yeah.
that the application request for the outdoor sales and display permit for 3 child-sized manufacturers on the northeast corner of the property setback at a minimum of 30 inches from the village right-of-way as depicted on a survey and pictures attached to the application is hereby approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Authorize 2022 drop-off bin permit. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the placement of this drop-off bin as shown on the survey of property and subject to the requirements of Chapter 77 of the Village Code. It says this drop-off bin, we have 2 there. Did they put 2 in the application?
No.
We have 2 bins now? Oh, yeah, we have 2 bins now.
I thought Nick was telling them they had to get rid of one. I thought.
Well, I mean, putting the second one there was actually really helpful because we were having overflow.
Yeah.
People were leaving stuff outside, so I think the second one is very helpful. Yeah, that seems to have mostly they pick up on Tuesdays, and it gets pretty close to both being full, and then people stop leaving things outside, so.
Well, what's the new address, man?
7 Clovers is the chamber parking lot. This is technically behind the fire.
I thought we
This
moved it.
is off of Mill Road now, actually.
Yeah. So it's, I don't have the address off the top of my head. It's like 76 or
Oh.
99 Road.
Oh, yeah, we put the shed
So we
back
should amend
there.
the address and up the number of bins to 2
Yeah.
with their
Yeah, okay.
agreement.
Yep.
And second with the amendments, Ralph?
Sure, I'll second with the amendments for the number of potential bins and the address to Mill Road.
Okay, got it.
All in favor?
Aye. Oh, it's me, I'm sorry. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the purchase of 1 New Holland C345 compact track loader from New York State Contract PC 69383 in an amount not to exceed $87,850, and a big tow trailer model B7T in the amount not to exceed $16,727 to be taken from GL account A5110.2 DPW equipment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the purchase of various accessories for the Ventrac snow blower in an amount not to exceed $15,192.32 to be taken from GL account A5110.2 DPW equipment.
Second.
Second, oh, all in favor. It's not really a snow blower though,
It's a
right?
sidewalk machine.
Yeah.
The attachments are a snow blower.
Yeah. So it would be the Ventrac sidewalk machine. Let's just change it.
You're not gonna need it anyway. You're not gonna have snow again.
We know what it is.
I know, exactly.
I can't wait to see that snow blower in action. Okay. So with the
Oh, no.
second,
No,
what'd
boy.
you say, I could drive it?
All night in this thing.
All right, did someone second it with the changes?
Second with the changes, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the, authorized purchase of equipment for Public Works Department. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve the purchase of an MTU on-site 60 kilowatt diesel generator from Suffolk County Contract Rates 100920 in an amount not to exceed $44,000 to be taken from GL account Apple 5110.2 DPW equipment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's it. You have no money left.
At the end of the year,
Yeah.
bending binge.
You're done.
You're broke.
You're done.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the purchase of various security cameras for installation in 3 municipal parking lots in an amount not to exceed $110,000 to be taken from GL account A3120.2, Police Department Equipment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the purchase of various security cameras to upgrade the video camera system at Village Hall in an amount not to exceed $60,000 to be taken from account GL A3120.2, Police Department Equipment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the purchase of various Motorola radio equipment to upgrade the radio system in the Police Department in an amount not to exceed $21,900 to be taken from GL account A3120.2, Police Department Equipment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve the purchase of 4 speed signs for traffic speed maintenance on various village roads in an amount not to exceed $11,900 to be taken from GL account Apple 3120.2, Police Department Equipment.
Second.
All in favor? And these are going to be great, these speed signs, because not only do they flash and make people slow down, but they collect the data. So then the chief and his team can look and say, when do we need to deploy officers to those locations?
Nice.
Right.
So that's really going
That's
to
awesome.
help.
Where they going, Rogers Avenue?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The good thing about these
Yeah.
is they're semi-permanent, they can be moved around, but they do offer us the ability to put in place in one spot for an extended amount of time. They're solar powered, so we don't have to, the trails that are outside, although they're solar powered, they really did have to be brought back to headquarters to charge up once in a while. We're hoping that's not the case with these. And as the mayor said, it collects all the data, time, speed, so better, be better able to deploy the officers.
That's cool.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the quote from Residential Fences Corp. in the amount of $15,390 for the replacement of the fence, Mill Road parking lot to be taken from GL account code A5110.405 materials.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the price quote submitted by Rosemar Contracting Incorporated for paving of Sunset to Mill Road, Stevens Lane east of Bridge, and Stevens Lane west of Bridge in the amount not to exceed $248,000 for the road paving and milling, with $170,000 to be taken from account code A5112.408 CHIPS improvements and $78,000 to be taken from A5112.407 permanent improvements account is hereby accepted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And thanks, Matthew, for staying on top of the paving. It's so important for the village. Now you
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes D&B Engineers and Architects PC to prepare a 2022 SWMP annual report and additional services for the 2022 annual stormwater management program at a cost not to exceed $11,100 to be taken from GL account code A6410 environmental.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Authorize repairs to Rogers Beach. Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the purchase of additional material in amounts not to exceed $20,000 to be taken from Park Funds account code CM210.
CM210?
That's what it said.
Okay.
The special revenue account. We had to move park funds and parking money to a special revenue because it's not considered a trust and agency account anymore because it's the village's money, so it's a revenue to us, but it's a special revenue because it's not a budgeted guaranteed revenue.
Got it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes a vehicle peddling permit to Dermas Bas, effective April 8th, 2022, and expiring on December 31st, 2022, and is subject to all other conditions in Chapter 128-10 and 128-11 of the Village Code.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that Police Officer Mark Yakubowski is hereby authorized to attend the State of New York's Juvenile Officers Association Basic Juvenile Police Officers Course at the Westchester County Police Academy from April 4th to April 8th, 2022. Travel expenses not to exceed $100 to include gas and tolls from GL account code A3120.415. Training.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor to execute the amended memorandum of agreement between the County of Suffolk, Village of West Hampton Beach, and the Bus Patrol America LLC to amend the original MOA to reflect the directive from the Office of the New York State Controller and to set forth provisions for the remittance of certain monetary penalties to the village.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the special exception application submitted by Ricardo Carmon and for Dave's Bun and Burger for outdoor tables and chairs located at 218 Mill Road and identified by the Suffolk County Tax Map number 905-8-3-14 is hereby referred to the Village Planning Board for review.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That went to the planning board, right?
Resolved that the warrant for April 2022 in the amount of $218,647.50 for the general fund and $524,582.16 for the capital fund is hereby approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Any public comments? No.
They said, we're going home.
Then, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for sticking it out.
There's no public left.
Well,
I move we close the meeting.
Need a resolution.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'm sorry.
Thanks,
Bill, I hope you enjoyed